Hello, folks. Welcome to the Manly Pinterest Tips Show. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. And I'm very excited for today's show because I have my friend, for one thing, back on the show with me today, Ian. But I've been kind of doing this live video thing since Google Hangouts, and I think that was probably about 3 years ago. And a lot has changed since then. We have more options and opportunities with live video than ever before. I mean, you may be asking yourself questions. Should my business be doing live video? Is there special software or equipment that I may need? Can I just broadcast just to my Facebook group? Well, those questions and more we're going to try to answer for you today. But first, have you downloaded my free Manly Pinterest Tips Tackle Box? It's chock full of some of my favorite resources for creating images and productivity. Go to manlypinteresttips.com to check it out. Well, I'm here with my go-to live video expert, Ian Anderson Gray, and he's going to help answer some of those questions we mentioned earlier. Ian is the founder of Seriously Social, and it's a blog focused on social media tools. He's a speaker, trainer, teacher, web developer, and consultant. He has a passion for turning the techno-babble of social media marketing into plain English. Ian is the co-founder of Select Performers, a family-run web agency, as well as being a geek, husband, and dad with 2 kids. Ian is a professional singer and lives near Manchester in the United Kingdom. Ian, thanks so much for being back on the show today.
It's a pleasure. I kind of always squirm when you say I'm a geek because of all those years of being bullied as a child, and I kind of have to remind myself that it's okay. It's cool to be a geek.
Yeah, I didn't really. I went to a small school. I didn't get bullied too much. I mean, but I wasn't Mr. Sports guy. But yeah, it's kind of in vogue now to be to be a geek because they have all the money, I guess. But not us, but everybody else. But if I'm talking today on the show and you guys have questions, feel free to enter them on the sidebar here on Crowdcast, and we will get to them and ask them. And Ian and I will discuss those, and I'll ask those questions of Ian to on the show today. And you can even come on camera if you so desire. So we're going to be trying that stuff out. So, okay, Ian, live video. We talked about you were on the show before, and we kind of talked about live video 101, but there's been a ton of changes to live video. I mean, in the last 3 or 4 months. And every social platform seems to be getting on the live video bandwagon. So where should a business start if they're interested in maybe, kind of diving into this live video stuff?
Well, I suppose you've got to think, where are you hanging out as a business to begin with? So I think most businesses are probably going to have a Facebook presence. And I think Facebook makes it really, really easy. So, you can just get it through your phone, and I would suggest just trying it on your phone to begin with, probably on your profile, because the great thing about with your phone going onto your profile is that you can change the privacy settings to only me to begin with. So you can test it out a few times. I can't tell you how many times I tested it out to begin with before I actually went public. So try that out. And I'm actually working with somebody, a business locally at the moment, and we're going to do quite a few private videos first just to test the waters, make sure the tech is working, and then you can go publicly. So yeah, test that out, but also think, where is your audience? Maybe your audience is mainly on Twitter, and in that case, maybe you should look at Periscope. So just have a look at where you're going to be, where your presence is going to be.
And I know you mentioned testing it out yourself on your phone, which is a good thing. And one of the reasons I do interview shows is because there's a lot of pressure when you're just looking at the phone and talking. So that's why I like bringing on guests like you. And I mean, my whole show is based around that, because it would be hard for me to sit up there and talk. Now, some people don't have an issue with that, but I would rather talk to people I find interesting and kind of have a conversation. So are there any tips you have for people who are, they want to test it on their phone, and Periscope is almost, unless you do some third-party stuff, which we'll talk about later, is you talking to the phone. Facebook Live, a lot of times, the only way to do that is talk to the phone. It's just you. So what would you suggest for those people who maybe struggle with that kind of stuff?
Well, there's some kind of fairly practical ways you can sort this out just by, you can have a guest that you can talk to who's actually physically next to you. Obviously that's
Yes.
not going to help with us because
Right.
we've got the Atlantic Ocean in the way, but
Right.
currently anyway. And but that's one way you can do it. The second thing is if it is just you, because I'm the same as you. I start to kind of I just start to kind of run out of things to say, or that's my fear.
Right.
And I wonder whether actually just trying to do it on your own to begin with, keep it short to begin with. I think we talked about this before. Just have a plan. Have if you've written a blog post, or if you've got some other content, or if you've got just anything really, just have 3 points that you want to talk about. Have them in front of you, just bullet points, and go through the bullet points. And you'll be really surprised actually. If you've got that structure there in front of you, you'll probably speak for more than you think you will, particularly if you start to get people coming in watching you live as well. Don't get distracted by those people. That's another thing just to be careful with, because if you lose your flow, that can be when it goes wrong. So just be aware of that.
Right. So I would think also that, and I've noticed this before for kind of interview shows versus the Periscope kind of when you're talking to the camera, people are a lot more forgiving on those than, I mean, and I think a lot of times we put a barrier in front of ourselves saying we've got to have a professional background. We've got to, have 3 points, and we've got to, I think as long as you're providing value, I think that it's something that you should try and not worry about all the, because people are used to looking at Snapchat stuff and that kind of thing, pretty often. And I don't think it matters as much as we think it does.
I think you're so right. I mean, there's always an excuse, I mean, I don't particularly like my background here. I'm looking at ways of improving things. I'm just jealous of yours, you see. And but if I kept on thinking of all these things, such as my background, my lighting, whatever it is, they're just barriers between me and me getting my message out. And the people out there that genuinely, bizarrely perhaps, want to hear what I want to say, what I have to say. So I think if you're a business and you're putting up all these barriers, I think you need to recognize that and just get on and do it. And you will, if you're scared, that is actually a good thing. It means you care, but what you need to do is channel that nervous energy, that adrenaline into just doing it. And as you say, people will be forgiving. I've seen live videos when the cats, they've got a pet cat and it's jumped on the keyboard, or the kids have come in and jumping around in the background, and actually that just kind of shares your humanity really. So don't worry too much about that.
Yeah. And so one of the other questions I have is, who do you think live video is perfect for? Do you think everybody should give live video a shot? Or do you think it's only reserved for those, people who like to blather on, maybe like we do? That was a British term. Was that blather on? That sounded kind of British, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure which part of the UK that's from. Blather on. I don't know. Anyway, I can't do that. Yeah. Well, I think that is a really, really important question to ask, because I think some of us can get shiny new tool syndrome. We get really excited by new technology and we jump on it, and we've forgotten to ask the question, why are we doing this? And it's not wrong to have to play with new technology. It may be that in your industry there's no one else that is doing this, and it's a way to for you to stand out from your competition, and that's not wrong. But I think you do need to think a bit more strategically about these things, and to have a step back and think, well, actually, okay, live video is great, but why should we be doing it? And I can come up with plenty of ways of why many businesses should do it, but you just need to think about whether it's right for you, whether you are actually going to be comfortable-ish with live video. I don't think everyone's going to be totally comfortable. But if you've done it for 10 weeks and you're still a nervous wreck and you're having to lie down and have, I don't know, you've turned to
Oxygen.
drink, or whatever it is, then maybe you've got to start to think maybe it's not for me. But I would say, give it a go. But do ask the question why you're doing it. Don't just do it because everyone else is doing it.
Right. I was thinking, okay, let me try to find somebody who live video would not be good for. And I thought, oh, an undertaker, that'd be horrible. But then I found actually it's really a service for people who can't attend the funeral to watch that funeral service on
Mm,
live video, and
yeah.
funeral homes are doing it. So that kind of busted my whole idea of like, no, that they couldn't do it. So I think, like you said, if as long as it's not making you physically ill, maybe you should get to try it. I think not. You need to look in your industry, because I bet you that most people aren't doing that. And if you want to stand out, like you mentioned, um, that would be a perfect way to do that. So here's the
No,
other
I mean,
question. Go
totally,
ahead.
totally agree. I was just going to say, Facebook, sorry, live video in general is just another type of content. It's
Mhm.
another platform, isn't it? So, I think of podcasting. I know podcasts that are on knitting, and one's about death and being an undertaker. So, I don't see why you can't talk about those things on a live platform as well.
Yeah, and the thing for me, and I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I started doing it when only live video was like Google Hangouts, and you could had to do stuff that way. Well, the reason I did it is because I didn't want to write. I don't like to write, blog posts, and I thought, well, I can talk, and it was the least point of pain for me was doing it that way, and not,
Mm.
I mean, if I have to write, I'll write, but I'd rather do this because it just seems to be easier. So find out what works for you, what you enjoy doing, and do some of that. So we talked about the phone. You can practice with just your phone, but is there any software that people need to do live video, other than, let's say, Facebook Live or Periscope? Do you recommend anything else? And then we'll talk about some other tools later.
Are you talking about from your phone or from other?
Yeah, from
From
your phone. I mean, I know a lot of people think, well, I see this thing on Facebook. Is that all I need? I mean, couldn't you just really get started, but just doing live video from Facebook?
I think so. Keep it simple to begin with. I always say just if it's Facebook, just go live through either the main app, or if it's to your page, you can use the Pages app.
Mhm.
Uh, just do that, and same with Periscope. Just, well, obviously Periscope is what it is.
Right, right.
Just keep it simple. I think the next stage, which we'll probably talk about, is taking it to your desktop or your laptop, and you can do so many more things from that point of view. If you're wanting to take things to the next level on your mobile device, then I would suggest it's more of a hardware thing I would look at. So I would look at improving. The first thing I would look at improving is the audio. So look at getting it. You could get a lapel mic or some external microphone. That makes a big difference. You could look at getting some different lenses for your phone. So these are kind of lenses that you can put on your phone's camera to make it more wide angle.
Mm.
You can make some really quite cool effects there. You could get a tripod to keep it nice and stable. And lighting as well. So there's loads of things you could. I mean, with the iPhone and quite a few Android phones these days, the camera is amazing. It's just
Yeah.
awesome. So you could do so much from your phone. So, but to make things a little bit more professional, look at audio, with the microphone, uh, maybe lenses, tripod, and lighting.
Right. And I would echo that with especially audio, because people will forgive bad video, but
Yeah.
they won't really forgive bad audio. They'll click off really quickly. So, and I can recommend one because I just bought it and it just came like yesterday, because I'm going to use it for social media marketing world, is the Rode Smart Lav Plus, and it's built just for your iPhone or your mobile device. It's made for
Yeah.
that. And so um and that was $70, and that was a high quality microphone, and I did a little test and
Yeah.
was very impressed with it. So something like that, I mean, minimal investment can really boost your production quality
Yeah.
without getting stuff like Ian and I were going to talk about. And it's going to be a geek alert here in a minute, because we are going to get pretty deep with some stuff. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people do want to, they start with their phone and they want to take it to the next level, and because they see the results. I mean, the reason I've had 3 years of doing this show is because it works, and I connect with people and I meet Ian and get to speak. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it can really open some doors for you. So don't, anything good usually is comes out of fear. So push yourself and move forward in doing something like that. So You and I,
that microphone is very good. I can attest to that. The only thing I'd say is Android users beware, because
oh,
it works really well with the iPhone. It works with some Android phones. It didn't work with mine. So just do your research with these things.
yeah, I would echo that. So, but now you have moved to iPhone with the
Oh,
rest
I
of the
haven't
people.
yet, not yet.
Oh, you haven't? I thought you went to. Oh, you went to Mac. That's right.
I've got
Okay,
a Mac, but I've still got my.
your Android phone. That's right. We'll convert you all the way here shortly. Um, so you and I both. I know both of us use Wirecast. Is there a reason that you picked that? I mean, OBS was free. That's
Yeah,
the free open source, and that stands for Open Broadcasting
broadcasting software.
Software. Okay. And that's
Yeah.
a free version. So if you want to test and play with some of the stuff, you guys can go download. But you and I pay for Wirecast, and it's about a $500 product for the cheapest version. So
Yeah.
why did you do that? And I want to hear your thoughts of why you went with Wirecast.
Well, I will say OBS Studio is an amazing piece of software. It's a great way to get started. It does integrate with Facebook and Facebook Live. You can also do live streaming to YouTube and Periscope. You could do some amazing stuff. What I will say, what Wirecast gives you, there's a number of things. So first of all, uh, it's just more powerful. And if you have with OBS Studio, I found that my computer was just almost kind of like running out of juice. We'll put it that way. Whereas Wirecast is a bit more efficient with its use of resources, because live streaming on a desktop is just needs a lot of power.
Especially if you're broadcasting too at the same time, it does take a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that brings me on to the second thing, which is OBS Studio only supports one platform at one time. So you can only do either Periscope or Facebook. Wirecast allows you to do multiple platforms. Although Facebook, they make it difficult for you, because they don't want you to broadcast to Facebook plus another one through Wirecast, but there are ways around that. Mm-hmm. So that's one. The second one, and then third one, I think, is it's just more robust. There's more power, more features. You can do some really quite cool stuff, which we can get into. So a bit more kind of geeky things. And fourthly, am I on to point 4? I think I am. Fourthly, is the level of support. So if things go wrong on OBS Studio, well, I mean, you can ask around, you can ask me, you can ask people who have had experience, you can go to the forums, but that's it. Whereas with Wirecast, you're paying at least $500 for this, so you do get relatively decent support with that. And a good community as well. It's the professional's choice, really. So that's why I went to Wirecast.
And there's a good user group inside of, you mentioned the forums for Wirecast is too. So I just want to say, we're using Wirecast actually right now. We're on Crowdcast, but I have a computer over here which is actually capturing this video and streaming it out using Wirecast. And this is the same setup I use for Social Media Examiner, because I produce most all of their live shows in the background. I'm hidden most of the time, and their Friday show and stuff like that. And so at the same time, we are going to Facebook, Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. So it's all happening at the same time. I used to do that with Wirecast, and I used to have to balance my output, because you only have so much bandwidth. And so, when you're going, depending on where you're at in the country, and I was just squeaking by, I didn't have enough room really to play with much. And I found a new service, and Ian and I were talking about this in the show. And we're going to partner together, and I'm doing a little course about it. And it's what I do is I send it out from Wirecast to one spot, and it splits it out to everything. And so I don't get hit hard with the bandwidth usage. And it's called Switchboard Live, and I love it. It's great. It lets me go to all the platforms. I can get around, in Wirecast, if you use the official Facebook API, you can't stream to any other platforms. Well, using this, I can, and it works great. I have no bandwidth cap. I pay actually a little bit extra, so I have the full HD everything. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to manlypinterest.com/live video and sign up. I'm not going to take the course until after social media marketing world. But anyway, and so I just wanted to throw that out there, because that was a little big limitation because I know a lot of people want to go everywhere at once. I know there's some of that question, but do you think you should broadcast to everywhere at the same time, or do you think we should just concentrate on just one? Because we do have the issue of, and we have the same issue at Social Media Marketing World, Social Media Examiner is getting the comments in one spot. And we always say, come over to Crowdcast, so we can monitor the comments. But people still make comments on those other platforms, and we're trying to kind of wrangle those too. So there's some plus and minuses.
Yeah. So it's a huge problem. I mean, I speak to people constantly about this. The fact that we all see the power of broadcasting to all these different platforms. It makes sense. You want to be where your audience is, but there are issues. I mean, one of the biggest issue is we don't have a unified comment stream, and so it's all fragmented all over the place. And what we need really is a way of unifying them, but it doesn't exist. And certainly at the moment, that type of service, and I think it would be very difficult to build it. Certainly when it comes to Periscope, because I don't even think it's possible to do that, to extract those comments out.
Right.
And the other issue is that, and this is a similar issue for people who are cross-posting to different social networks with normal posts, is that the audience is different, the platform is different. So I think people, if they go onto Periscope, and it's quite obviously you're just live streaming it from Facebook, and you're not really paying any attention to the Periscope people, I think they're going to switch off. Whereas, or maybe more so, whereas if we could develop a way for you to, in front of you, you probably have to have like 10 screens in front of you, exactly. And you could monitor it all, and you're constantly, referring to people across all the platforms, then it might be possible to do that. But yeah, I think this is something we've got to work out as broadcasters and marketers. And test, at the end of the day, if you're broadcasting to all these networks and you're only getting one viewer on Periscope or one viewer on YouTube, and they only watch for about 30 seconds and they give up, then is it worth your time? That's what you got to think about.
It's funny. I've noticed like on Facebook, viewers is a lot shorter than what you have on YouTube, which makes sense because YouTube people go to watch videos. And so I see that. Now, I still think it's a little getting the live view thing on YouTube. So because people are so used to going there and watching content at their leisure, I think that's kind of a little, hard to get over. But, we do it because we're social media geeks and we are on every platform anyway. But I think you have a great point of like, if this is a business, let's say you're a local, retailer, like a flower shop or something like that, doing live video about your new bouquets or something, and not freaking out about going everywhere at once, but find out where your people are. And I have a feeling they're probably on Facebook, and just use Facebook Live and grow your audience there. And then, if that's working and you have bandwidth to do it, you can always go and try a different one. But I think your point is very, very well made. Do you have any drawbacks to Wirecast? I mean, do you have any things that you don't, that you wish they would have done differently?
It's a good question. A lot of people say, well, I've heard mixed reports. Some people say Wirecast is really easy to use right from the word go. I think probably for me, because I spent so much time on OBS Studio, and I even produced a course on how to use it. Moving from that to Wirecast, I just found there was a learning curve because it is more powerful, and I was trying to understand everything. So it took me some time to get used to it. There is a learning curve with it, so there's no doubt about that. It will take a bit of time to get used to all the functions. It can be a little bit clunky in places, and it's occasionally I've found it crashes. But thankfully, it doesn't crash. It tends to crash when I close it down, so it's not like a big deal. It's kind of like I close it down and then it starts to crash. It's like it kind of is feeling, I don't know, it's feeling sad that I've closed it down or something. So. But yeah, it's one thing I will say, which I've been really, really excited about with Wirecast, and this is something that doesn't happen really so much with OBS Studio. OBS Studio is open source, so they are developing it. They are adding new features, but Wirecast at the moment, they're constantly updating it with new features. Just last week there was 7.4, I think we're on.
Right.
Loads of new features which are really, really cool. And I think they're seeing the amount of excitement in the live video world, and they're wanting to deliver on that and get us talking about it. So that's really cool.
So you mentioned the new version. In fact, I didn't want to mess with it because I didn't want to have, you never know. And I have 2 shows. I have another show after this I need to produce. And so I was like, I really want to upgrade, but I don't want to mess anything up. Yeah. So they upgraded this new version that allows you to schedule upcoming live events on Facebook groups and event pages, which is kind of a big deal. And first of all, why do you think, can you explain to people why it's so important to schedule these Facebook live posts, which is a kind of a new thing anyway, but why that's so important?
Yeah, it took me a while for this to really sink in, because you've been able to schedule from a Facebook page for, depending on, it's not been, it took a while to be rolled out to everyone, but certainly a couple of months you've been able to schedule up to a week in advance. So I have a live show, and I can post it on my page, and people can sign up to be notified for that. So for example, I can create that schedule post. It gets posted onto my page. People can be notified about that, and then that post itself will go live on Monday when I'm actually live. So I can share that out. I can send people from my mailing list to that. I can cross post it to other networks. The amount of the power that you have over that is amazing. You can even embed that video on your website so that when you go live, people can see it on your website. So the power of that is amazing. The only kind of downside is that it's been only available to people with a page. And if you are wanting to go live in a group, or going live on your profile or an event, the only option to you is to go, well, you can say, I am going to go live next week on a Monday, but you can't do this proper official scheduled live until now with Wirecast. And what I didn't realize is that buried deep in the dark and scary API, which is this, it's the geeky thing that Facebook have that allow other tools to link up with it, is the ability to schedule from your profile group and event. And what Wirecast have done is they've just baked that into their tool. So you just can select the date and the time when you want to go live, and it gets posted immediately to your profile or group. And I think that's really cool, really powerful.
Is it the same? Because I thought that you could only schedule things for 24 hours before, because the stream would shut down on Facebook if you were going into, using the RTMP thing. Because is it when you say schedule live, is it the same thing like what I did today, where it has the button where it says get a reminder?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Okay.
It is, yeah. And you can do that up to a week in advance. Okay. And they give you the RTMP. I think, I've never tested this, but they give you this kind of the stream key. I've never made a note of it when I schedule it, because then when I go live, it gives me it again. But you don't even need to worry about that in Wirecast. You don't need to worry really about stream keys. You just go in there and do it live. Unless, of course, you want to do it, unless you want to broadcast to multiple platforms at the same time. And then you do need to worry about stream keys. But that's a totally different thing, which we probably won't go into, because I don't want to bore everyone to death.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'll cover in a little bit, because that's what I have to do every week, because I have to go in. So I have to schedule that, find the key, put it in there. And that's where the thing like Switchboard Live comes in very handy, because I can set that up beforehand. So, but yeah, so the scheduling thing, it lets people, it gives them a notification as well, which is huge. That
yes,
you can get reminders from it. There's a little button on there, which is kind of frustrating, because you try to upload a custom image, the button goes away, which I don't like. And so I always leave it the way it is, because I think people like to click on that button. But you also get a notification that, hey, Jeff C scheduled a video that's going to go live in a day or whatever. and so, which I think drives people to watch your show and build some engagement. And like you said, you can share that other places. So I think that's very, very cool. And that leads into the next question. Um, how do you promote your show? What is the best ways you found with all these new things? We talked about scheduling tool, scheduling with this new scheduling thing that Facebook has. What are some other ways that you promote your show? I mean, sometimes I do a really great job of it, and sometimes I'm like, oh no, I've got a show today. I got to get this ready. So what do you do to get people to your show?
Well, it's very similar to other types of content that you're doing, except for the fact that it's because it is live, they need to be there at that time. So there are two elements to this. I think we obviously want to get live viewers who are going to interact with us. But I also will say is don't forget about the replay viewers. And I've actually got quite a big thing about creating evergreen content from your live broadcast. So I frequently get people saying, "Oh, sorry, I missed your show," but they're interacting after the event, and you can see their comments kind of being added, even though they're watching it later. So that's something that you can think about too. But one thing I did recently is in my mailing list, I sent out an email saying I'm going live next week, next Monday. If you're interested, I mean, I obviously say what I'm going to be talking about. If you're interested, just click here, and I will remind you just before the time. So although you've got the Facebook notification system with the scheduled live, I still think email's really powerful. I mean, most people are using email, and if they have opted into that, then that's great. So they just click on that, and then I just set up an automation in my email software, which I use Active Campaign, but most tools out there will do a similar thing. And either half an hour, 15 minutes, or an hour before you're going live, you can just send a quick email out that says, "Hey, you wanted me to remind you. Here's the link, and hope to see you." And the other thing is just standard kind of marketing things, or maybe this is kind of getting more into the realm of psychology, but bit of intrigue. Say we're going to talk about this next week. Watch to find out more about this. That might be one good way, and also just getting people to ask questions. So get people to ask questions beforehand and say, "That's a great question. I'm going to answer that in the show." And people love their questions to be answered.
Yeah, I think too. What you said about getting people to your show is not to worry about live viewers, because really, I mean, small businesses, especially when you are talking about your auto body shop, or maybe new flowers and a coffee at your your store, you probably won't have like a ton of viewers at the beginning, and that's okay. I mean, most of the stuff I've seen, just like you, is the stuff that happens afterwards. And because you're putting content out, you're probably doing more than 75 to 80% of your competition, nationwide or whatever, because most people aren't doing that. And you're putting content out there. And so give yourself a hand for doing that, and don't freak out about these, oh, I only had 5 people show up to my, my show or whatever. And so, I mean, you're putting out content, wow, that's awesome. And so that I want people who are watching this or listening to it later is to go, I did one and only like my mom and my aunt showed up, don't worry about it. I mean, you're putting content out, you're going out there. So
it's so true. The problem is Facebook kind of slaps the number of live viewers on the top left, so you can't get away from it. But yeah, and I totally agree with you. But I still feel the same. I would say test the time of the day as well, because you'll get different numbers at different times of the day, I think, and try different formats. But yeah, just try not to worry about that, because certainly my initial Facebook lives, I was probably getting 1 or 2 people. It was really, really depressing watching them. But then some of those early ones, just the number of comments afterwards, the number of replay views was completely mad. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of people. So yeah, I think we can get too hung up on the number of live viewers. So just ignore them. I mean, you probably get equally freaked out if you had like 5,000 people watching you. So,
That's right. It
you
would
know,
be, well,
it's all
you can't
relative.
win. You can't win. And this is a side note too. After your video is done, one thing that you may want to do, and I've started doing this, if you're getting some comments and you're seeing some momentum on that video you just did, throw some money behind it in Facebook. And I'm talking like $2 and see what happens. Target really well. Like if you're, let's say, since we're talking about social media, I would target, different social media companies and do some little targeting on Facebook. And it really does increase your views, and Facebook loves video. And so you'll start getting more comments. So if you're struggling with those viewers, try adding, I've just been playing with $2 after a show. And then if it really takes off, I'll put some more money behind it. But that's something, I don't think $2 will break anybody's budget, but give that a shot and see. Here's another question. And I just thought about this the other day is, do you think we're getting close to content shock for live video? I mean, here we are talking about live video. Everybody else is talking about live video. All these new platforms are rolling out live video. In fact, just today, Facebook Messenger stole Snapchat pretty much, and is doing this Messenger Day where I actually got on my Messenger and promoted this show, because now we can do video on Messenger. So are we getting overwhelmed with live video, and you think people are going to go, oh, I just want to read a blog article. I'm done with this. So what do you think? I know Schaefer talks about content shock. What do you think?
Well, yeah. I think it depends on the industry you're in, because I think in our industry, in marketing, social media, yeah, we probably are reaching. I'm not sure we're reaching, live video shock, right. But yeah, I mean, it's been talked about all over the place, and I think it divides people. You get some people that absolutely love it, and I have spoken to people that are just totally fed up with it. They in their words, in their view, they're seeing a lot of low quality content out there, live stuff. So I think you need to look at the sector that you're in. So I'm working with a client who is an real estate agent here in the UK, and in his industry, I don't see anyone else doing it. So it makes perfect sense for him to look at that. And so I think, think about that. In our industry, in the marketing world, I think there are a lot more people, quite a few more people doing it. So then we need to look at ways of making it stand out, to maybe look at the quality or do something that's completely out of the ordinary. But above all, as you were saying before, to deliver really good value. And then look at making that video work for you, make it into evergreen content, make it into a blog, repurpose it. There's loads of things that you can do.
Yeah, I've thought, and I started kind of playing with the idea of chopping up these in little bits, because, for me, a good question and answer is usually about 2 to 3 minutes long. And that's a perfect thing for a small little bit of time. Because I know for me, and that's why I asked the question about content shock. It's like, oh, Ian's on, I don't have an hour to watch him. Oh, Mike's on, I don't have and so you can't be everywhere watching video all the time. And, the replay stuff. And, even I think about what they call the dark social, where you never know who's watching you. And I've had people email me that, oh, we love your podcast. I didn't even know you were listening. So, I mean, I think there's something, you can't just look at your live numbers like we talked about, but also what you said is to provide value all the time. I mean, I started the show because I wanted to ask cool people questions and get free consulting. It's pretty much what it is. Yeah. And the audience came with it. And so I think, ask questions that you find interesting. You don't have to put on a big news show or something. Just, ask questions you find interesting. So
I agree. And one other thing is, I just say that even if people don't watch you, or they might only watch you for 30 seconds, that doesn't mean that they hate you. It means that you are becoming more visible, and, since we're talking about Mark Schaefer, he's written this whole known book, it's maybe making you more known and more visible. And that's not a bad thing, hopefully, as long as people aren't getting totally fed up with you. So that is something to bear in mind, that, don't worry that people are only watching you for a short period of time. That will hopefully increase over time.
You mentioned earlier a teleprompter that we talked about in the green room too. So are there any other tools that you really like using for live video? And teleprompter may be something if somebody's really, you don't want to sit there and hello, my, and read your whole thing, but it might help some people. So are there any other tools in that teleprompter one that you like to use?
Yeah, well, I mean, so there's two kind of types of teleprompter. So I personally wouldn't use a kind of a standard teleprompter to go through what I'm going to be talking about. I, as you know me, I'm like a total tool geek, but
Right.
just above me here, I mean, I've got two monitors here, so I can have on my second monitor up here, I can have a Google Doc there with a few things, but actually just above my second webcam there. So if I'm doing my live show, I tend to kind of look up here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got posted to the wall with a bit of blue tack. I've just got some bullet points, and so I would just keep things simple. There are some kind of apps out there, some teleprompter apps. The one there is one that's I've totally forgotten, but I can add that later to the chat. I can let you know. The other thing that I particularly like, particularly for live video, when you're getting comments, is one of the big problems are the comments. Keeping on top of those, and I was using my phone, to begin with, and then you've got the problem with the audio coming out and you're getting the echo.
Right.
Or you've got, you're trying to kind of refresh it on one of your monitors, but you've got Wirecast open and you've got all these things, and it's just ridiculous. So I've come across, at the moment, unfortunately, this is a little bit geeky. It requires a little bit of, this is going to sound horrible, but a bit of coding. You've got to edit. It's not as bad as it sounds. You've got to edit one little thing, but it's cool. It's basically you load it onto your website and it gives you real-time comments, really, really big, on your live video, and you can scroll up and down, and it also gives you reactions and how many people are viewing. So it's a pretty cool
that is very
tool.
cool. I know that Switchboard is working on a beta of being able to. A lot of this multicasting stuff came out of the gamers. Kind of, they were playing video games and they wanted to do it on Twitch and all these other places and stuff. Oh, Mike Alton said that was Prompt Spark.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I think Steve Dotto was talking about it recently.
Yeah, he was using it the other day too. So, you don't want to look like you're reading, but I think something like that, and somebody who comes together with an app that will let you pull all this stuff together will be richer beyond their wildest dreams if they can get it to work.
Yeah.
So here, kind of a couple final questions. One, Ian, where do you think live video? I know this. I'm not even going to say a year. Where do you think it'll be in 3 months from now? Live video.
Live video yesterday.
I mean, now you can have drones. I mean, live video. I've been watching people do that on Facebook with their drones. And where do you think it'll be in 3 months?
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we've already kind of seen the future. It is things like drones. It is, we've already got 360 live video, and 360 cameras are becoming a lot cheaper. So so probably 360 drones maybe, and full HD. What's full HD? We're on to 4K, 8K, 16K.
That's right.
And one area where I think we could, I don't see it being developed particularly much more, but I would say there's not been that much development in the world of audio, so I think that is a shame. I think we could do with better quality audio, particularly for musicians and those kind of artists. So we've got Facebook Live Audio, which is going to be good for DJs and for musicians and people like that. As long as people don't get banned, because I've heard a lot of people getting banned for 5 days and sometimes longer for playing copyrighted music, perhaps even being played on the radio behind you, and Facebook hears it and bans you. So just be careful of that.
I've heard people who were doing Google Hangouts before who wrote the song getting a strike against them from YouTube because I mean, it's just ridiculous, and they owned it. So, So my prediction, and I think that, and Michael Stelzner said this, was that he thinks the last boundary will be getting into the living room. And
Yes.
you're seeing that already with, Facebook. I do it with my kids all the time. I'll find a funny video with dogs or something, and I can sit there and with my Google, whatever it is, I can't even remember, a Chromecast.
Chromecast, yeah.
I can shoot it straight there using the Facebook and go right into let them watch it. So shows, people developing stuff. I think there's just so much creativity that's going to happen on this platform.
Yeah.
This is another question. I just want to, what you thoughts about it. We're putting all this great content and we're giving it away to Facebook or Periscope or whatever. Do you think we really need to start thinking about how to get it back on? I know you can embed it on your website, but you're still using, Facebook stuff. Do you think that's something we need to start worrying about? Is, they're giving us all these free tools, they're giving us all this technology so they can track us and market to us, which is great for marketers. But how do we, as our personal website, is it going to go away, or do we need to really start thinking about how can I drive people, one, to my email list and back to my website, those kind of things?
Oh, you've always got to think about that. I think, what is your plan of what do you want people to do once they've watched the video or they're watching the video? It could just be to do with brand awareness. I mean, I think there's two questions there. There's the first question: what if Facebook decide to pull Facebook Live? I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I think it's if you're really serious about the live video and you're producing some really killer content, then I think it makes sense to make sure you're downloading or keeping a copy of those videos so you can repurpose. So you can already do that within Facebook. You can download the videos. If you've got the likes of OBS Studio or Wirecast and you're streaming from your desktop, then you can actually save the video as well. So not wanting to be too technical, but Facebook is only 720p. It's not full HD. So you're streaming in that, but you can also save in full HD. So when you then upload to the likes of YouTube, you can be in beautiful full HD and it'll be wonderful.
That's right.
I'll be much rejoicing.
Yeah, I think those are good points to make sure that you keep all your stuff as a backup because you never know what could happen. So, well, we've reached our end of our time, Ian. Thanks again for being on the show. Where can people find you online?
I'm glad you said online. Yeah. I can be found. My website is iag.me. And you can also find me on Twitter at iagdotme. Those are probably the best places to find me.
Very cool. And where can they get? I mean, you have a whole course on live video. Where's the best way for them to find that?
So you can, if you go to just iag.me, there's a big, you can't really miss it. Right at the top, there's a big kind of big signpost for the course. So you can find out more there just by going to that website.
Yeah, very, very cool. And if you'd like to pre-sign up for this how to broadcast to multiple locations, which I do every week, you can go to manlypinteresttips.com/live video. Thank you so much for being on the show today. As always, we love for you to visit manlypinteresttips.com, click on the sidebar, and subscribe to our email community so you'll never miss a great show and a guest like we had with Ian today, because at manlypinteresttips.com, we're adding testosterone one pin at a time. See you next time, everybody. Thanks for watching.